Imagine 6,000 crosses spanning 200 kilometers along Rome's main road. Each one held a rebel slave, their broken bodies a warning to anyone dreaming of freedom. But one body was missing, the most dangerous one. Spartacus. How did he actually die? Official records are suspiciously vague. They claim he fell in battle, lost among thousands, just another nameless corpse. Convenient that the man who crushed Roman legions simply vanished without a trace. The truth is darker and more dramatic. This wasn't a random death. It was a hunt, the finale of a 2-year war between opposites. Marcus Licinius Crassus, Rome's richest man, fighting for control and order, against Spartacus, the Thracian gladiator who owned nothing but scars and one explosive idea. No man should own another. An idea dangerous enough to burn Rome itself. This isn't just a slave revolt story, it's how an empire mobilized everything to destroy not an army, but a symbol. Because armies can be defeated, symbols are much harder to kill. Capua, 73 BCE. Inside Lentulus Batiatus's gladiator training facility, men were treated like livestock, prepared to die for spectacle. Spartacus wasn't a criminal. He'd been a Thracian warrior in Rome's auxiliary forces before deserting, getting captured, and being sold. The arena awaited him, but he refused that fate. The escape was audacious and desperate. Spartacus and 70 others grabbed kitchen blades and cooking tools, fighting their way out. They fled to an unlikely sanctuary, Mount Vesuvius's crater. This ragged band of outcasts became the spark of revolution. Rome's reaction? Mockery and contempt. They dispatched 3,000 militiamen under Praetor Gaius Claudius Glaber, not for battle, but for extermination. The Romans sealed the volcano's only descent and waited for starvation to finish the job. Fatal overconfidence. Spartacus revealed his brilliance. Using wild vines from the mountainside, his men crafted makeshift ropes. Under darkness, they rappelled down cliffs Rome thought impossible to traverse. They stormed the sleeping encampment and slaughtered everyone. Rome's first humiliation, far from its last. Word exploded across the region. A gladiator had destroyed a praetor's forces. Thousands of runaway slaves throughout Italy rushed to join him. The infection was becoming an army. A year before the end, Spartacus stood at the Alps with his army. He'd crushed every Roman force sent against him. Freedom waited beyond those mountains. Gaul, home, escape, victory was theirs. But the real threat wasn't Crassus waiting ahead. It was already gone. Crixus, his Gallic lieutenant, brutal and magnetic, never wanted freedom. He craved vengeance. He wanted Rome itself, burned and bleeding, payment for every scar and indignity. The army fractured, the dream shattered. Spartacus sought liberation for his people. Crixus demanded war and destruction. Crixus split off with 30,000 followers, heading south on a rampage of plunder and rage. Roman legions intercepted them and killed them all. Spartacus, bound by loyalty or unable to abandon his comrades, reversed course. He turned away from freedom and marched south, straight into Crassus's waiting trap. A lethal mistake, born from the clash between hope and fury. The last battle wasn't heroic, it was desperation. Spartacus and 70,000 followers were cornered at the Silarus River in southern Italy. Crassus had constructed a wall stretching nearly 60 kilometers to trap them, starving them slowly. But hunger only fueled their rage. Before the fight, they brought Spartacus his horse, a powerful Thracian stallion. He stared at it, then drew his sword. In front of everyone, he slashed the animal's throat. As it fell, he shouted to his army, "If we win, I'll have all the horses I want. If we lose, I won't need one." No retreat, no escape, victory or death. 8 Roman legions, more than 40,000 professional soldiers, the planet's most lethal war machine, waited on the other side. Disciplined, equipped, ruthless. And their commander, Crassus, had given them one order: take no prisoners, especially one. He wanted Spartacus alive or dead. His head was the trophy that would end the terror and give him the glory he craved. The slaughter was about to begin. The battle cry vanished in thunder. This wasn't a charge. It was an explosion, a wave of desperate rage smashing into shields and steel. But one man had a single target. Spartacus wasn't trying to break the line, he was hunting. With his elite warriors, he became a violent arrow cutting through chaos. His goal, Crassus's command tent. He killed 2 centurions blocking his path. His blades moved like lightning, gladiator instinct amplified by royal wrath. Pure madness, a suicide run toward the heart of Rome's war machine. He got close, incredibly close. But the cost was brutal. His guards dropped around him, outnumbered 10 to 1. A spear tore through his thigh. He collapsed to one knee but braced against his shield and kept fighting, screaming, refusing to fall. Bleeding, encircled, watching his men destroyed. Alone in an ocean of enemies, he pushed forward, a lion surrounded by wolves. Wounded, kneeling, eyes still blazing. The legionaries hesitated. This wasn't just another slave. This was the man who'd slaughtered consular armies. The nightmare haunting Rome's elite. The legend. Who would strike the killing blow? Terror and respect battled training. The pause ended. An officer barked orders. The steel ring closed. Spartacus, forcing himself upward with his shield, roared one final defiance. But it was no longer combat. It was drowning, one body against dozens, an entire empire's weight crushing a single kneeling man. His last cry disappeared beneath clashing weapons and victorious shouts. The Thracian lion was silent. Silence fell across the killing field. Roman soldiers searched through mountains of corpses, hunting for one specific dead man. They found nothing useful. Spartacus's most devoted warriors had thrown themselves over their leader as they died, creating an impenetrable shield of bodies. Somewhere beneath that tangle of limbs and gore lay the gladiator who terrorized Rome, now impossible to identify. Crassus stood victorious. 50,000 corpses proved it. The slave army was annihilated, the threat eliminated. Yet something crucial was absent. The one thing that would cement his legacy, the head he'd parade through Roman streets to wild applause, had disappeared into the very bloodbath he'd orchestrated. Without physical proof, his greatest achievement felt incomplete. Spartacus had managed one final act of defiance from beyond the grave, stealing from Crassus the glory he craved most. Crassus understood power through symbolism. Since Spartacus's corpse couldn't be found, the entire crushed uprising would become the spectacle. 6,000 survivors were taken prisoner. People who'd endured battle only to meet a fate infinitely worse. Mercy never entered the equation. Rome demanded retaliation, and terror would be the currency. What followed was calculated brutality on a massive scale. Crassus chose those 6,000 to become living warnings. Their execution wouldn't be swift. Walking came first, a forced march retracing the path they'd taken toward liberation. Their final destination was the Appian Way, Rome's arterial highway linking the capital to southern territories. From Capua, where the rebellion ignited, stretching 200 kilometers to Rome's entrance, soldiers planted wooden crosses at regular intervals. Every 30 to 40 meters, another stake rose from the earth. A prisoner was affixed to each one. The cross represented Rome's cruelest invention, engineered to maximize agony and shame while prolonging death through suffocation and exhaustion. Victims died in public view over hours or days. This transcended punishment. It was theater, a calculated display of dominance. Anyone traveling toward Rome, whether traitor, soldier, or citizen, had no choice but to witness this gallery of suffering. The meaning couldn't be clearer. Defy Rome and this awaits you. Dream of freedom and die screaming where everyone can see. Rome celebrated when Crassus's victory arrived. 2 years of fear ended instantly. Crassus anticipated the highest honors. He'd succeeded where consuls failed, financing everything himself and winning through brutal efficiency. Reality taught him how Roman politics actually worked. As Crassus destroyed the main force, around 5,000 rebels fled northward without leadership or hope. Their escape meant nothing. They stumbled directly into legions returning from Spain under Pompey the Great, Rome's most charismatic and calculating general. Pompey saw opportunity. He wiped out these exhausted survivors with minimal effort. The encounter was trivial, barely worth mentioning in the war's narrative. But Pompey, a political mastermind, spun this footnote into his defining moment. His Senate dispatch was calculated genius. It erased Crassus's campaign, the years of warfare, the engineering achievement of the containment barrier. Pompey's message was lethally simple. Crassus won a battle. I eliminated the threat entirely. The Senate, intimidated by Crassus's wealth yet charmed by Pompey's appeal, embraced this version eagerly. Credit would be redistributed. For his minor cleanup, Pompey received a full triumph, riding through Rome in a golden chariot to thunderous applause. Crassus, who actually won the war, got an ovation. This inferior ceremony meant walking instead of riding, wearing myrtle instead of laurel, symbols of lesser achievement. The insult was absolute. History twisted cruelly. Spartacus fought against Rome's ruling elite, yet his destruction became fuel for that elite to tear itself apart. His memory sparked one of Rome's most toxic feuds. Crassus and Pompey's hatred, combined with Julius Caesar's hunger for power, formed the first triumvirate and began the Republic's collapse. The slave rebellion failed, but it lit a slow, burning fuse under Rome's foundations. The men who crushed Spartacus met fitting ends. Crassus, desperate to match his rival's military fame, marched east against Parthia. His legions were destroyed at Carrhae. He died in captivity. Stories claim his executioners filled his mouth with molten gold, mocking his legendary greed. Pompey, who stole credit for ending the rebellion, eventually faced Caesar's rising power. Civil war erupted. Pompey lost and fled to Egypt seeking protection. Upon arrival, a young pharaoh hoping to please Caesar had him murdered on a desolate beach. The Republic itself, the system these men claimed to protect, the order that justified crucifying 6,000 souls, devoured itself through their competing ambitions. Their civil wars shredded it beyond repair. Within years of Crassus's death, the Republic vanished, replaced by imperial rule. What Spartacus couldn't break from outside, Rome's protectors shattered from within. History delivers its final twist. Spartacus pursued freedom and fell. Crassus and Pompey chased power and glory only to die wretchedly after witnessing their achievements crumble. His corpse remained missing because they searched the wrong terrain. They combed battlefields when his true location was elsewhere. In every prisoner's quiet resistance, in stories whispered after dark, in anyone throughout time who believed their worth exceeded their purchase price. Spartacus died that day, yet he also became eternal. Rome won militarily. They obliterated his forces, executed his followers, and eliminated physical proof of his existence. But they lost catastrophically. Their attempt to erase him transformed him into everyone. The flesh and blood warrior, a Thracian fighter, perished kneeling in Italian mud, overwhelmed by Roman blades. That individual's story concluded in an unmarked grave, absorbed by an empire that crushed all opposition. The idea took a different path. It outlasted its enemies and Rome itself. Later, revolutionaries claimed him. Marx and socialist philosophers called him the first proletarian hero. In modern times, his narrative became a universal metaphor against tyranny, a collective roar heard across continents. Rome's attempt at deletion created a worldwide vocabulary of defiance. The physical battle ended 2 millennia ago, but the struggle over his meaning continues today. Those controlling history's narrative shape tomorrow. The question persists. Was he a champion of justice or an architect of destruction? History leaves the judgment unresolved.